Hello everyone. Today we are going to look at the next data type, which is strings. Okay, we've already come across strings before, but I only defined the string data type and I told you that it is used for storing or representing text data, but I've not given you what are the methods that you can do with strings and how to do various operations on strings. Okay, so that is what we are going to look at today. So the first thing that you need to know, in the last lesson or in the lesson in lists, we saw that tuple data type was exactly like the list data type, in the sense that many functions which were applicable for lists were also applicable for tuples, and that is the same case with strings also. Okay, it is similar to list in many ways, like the concatenation operation, replication operation, its usage with for loops, in and not in operators, and len function, etc. So in all these ways, lists are actually strings are actually similar to lists. So let us quickly go through all these examples. So first, an example of a string. So we name a string my string hello world. Okay, so this is an example of a string data type. If I print the type of my string, you will see that it is of class string. Okay. So how do we usually define strings? The simplest way to define strings is use single or double quotes for representing piece of text as a string. Okay. Now let us look at the concatenation and replication operations. So if you remember from list, we used the plus operator for concatenating two lists. That means one list will be, the elements of both lists will be combined in such a way that first we have all the elements of list 1 and then we have all the elements of list 2. That is called as concatenation operation. So similarly, if we have string 1 is suppose hello with a space or hello comma, and string 2 is the string word. Now if I print string 1 plus string 2, let us see what is the result of this addition of or concatenation operation. So see that the both strings have been concatenated and you get this string hello comma world. Okay, and similarly you can go on concatenating more strings. So here if I say plus 2019, I've added two more strings. One is an exclamation mark and one is 2019 with a space. So you get this whole string. And now let us look at the replication operation. So we have this str1 and str2. Suppose if I say print, so we use the asterisk operator for replication. So in list replication, what was happening? So if you have a list with 3 items xyz, if I do 2 into x, all those items will be replicated twice. So I'll have xyz xyz 6 items. So similar case will happen with string. If I say 2 into str1, let me comment this one. So you see that 2 into str1, this string got repeated twice, hello and hello, hello comma and hello comma. Fine. Similarly, if I say 2 into str1 plus 2 into st, or if I say str1 plus str2, this whole thing into 2. So this whole string will get replicated twice. hello world. Okay, so that is how string replication works, exactly similar to how list replication works. So next let us look at what are the different various ways of actually defining strings. Okay, so we've already looked at two ways, which are to use either single quotes or double quotes. Okay, so you're all familiar with this. So str1 is, if I say hello, and str2 is with double quotes if I say hello. Now let us check whether these both are equal. So I can use the equality operator to check that. So I'm checking whether string 1 and string 2 are equal. Okay, so if they are equal, this will print true. If they are not equal, it will print false. So you see that it has printed true. So there is no difference between using single quotes or double quotes. Okay, these are two different ways. But what is the benefit of using double quotes? One of the benefits is that it may contain single quotes. Okay, so for example, an apostrophe is actually the same as the single quotation operator. So if your text has an apostrophe, so then imagine I want to write this piece of text, represent this piece of text as a string. I've got to learn Python. Okay, so in this string there is an apostrophe character, right, which is the same as single quotation or single quote. So now if I say str1 is in single quotes, I've got to learn Python. So this doesn't work because Python, as soon as I put this single quote, which is actually an apostrophe, Python will end this string I. Okay, and it doesn't actually recognize that all this is part of the string. So instead, what should I do to avoid this confusion that whether this is an apostrophe or end of the string? Apostrophe is confused as end of string because both are the same character. So the way to avoid this is to represent the string, instead of using single quotes, you use double quotes. Okay, so now you see that this whole text in red, this is actually being read as our string. Fine, so if I print str1, let me comment this out. So you see we have got this apostrophe also, and I've got to learn Python. Similarly, if you want to use double quotes inside, then you can use single quotes outside. Okay, so if I say, although this does not have any meaning as such, so this is what you'll get. Okay, I'll just reverse it. Fine. The next idea is of escape characters. Okay, escape characters change the usual meaning of a character in a specific context. Okay, this will become more clear in an example. So here I've showed you that if you want to use this apostrophe character, you have to use double quotes outside. But another way to do this is to actually use escape characters. Escape means you usually use this backslash. So this character is known as the backslash character. Used to escape. So it is used to escape characters, means to give special meaning to them. So what is the, if I write this string str1 is, let me write the same string. Okay, so when I'm using single quotes, I do not want this apostrophe to be confused as a closing quote. Okay, so to ensure that, I can use the escape character. So here I'll say str2 equals, in single quotes I again write the same thing, I got to learn Python. But what I'll now do is I'll escape it using this backslash. Okay, so now the meaning of this quotation has changed. Earlier the meaning of this quote, earlier the meaning of the single quote was a closing quote, but now it simply means the single quote character. All right, so earlier it had the meaning of the beginning of a string and the end of a string, but now it simply means like I and V and E are other characters, so the single quote is another character. Okay, so what this backslash has done is it has changed the default meaning of this quote character. The default meaning is either to be the beginning of a string or to be the end of a string, but this has changed it. Okay, so now if I print this string simply using print str2, just wait for this to get connected. So you see that this character is now present in the text. So you can see that in str2 the single quote character appears 3 times, once here, and once here. Okay, so the first and the last quotes behave usually like how they are supposed to. This behaves as an opening quote or beginning of the string, this behaves as a closing quote or the end of the string. But because this quote has been escaped using this backslash, this behaves differently. Instead of behaving as the opening or closing quote, this simply behaves as the single quote character itself. Okay, so now let us look at more examples. The same thing you can do for if you want to include your double quote inside your string. For example, if I have a dialogue, so if I say within double quotes, he said something, I want to say he said something, and within the text I want to include these double quotes. So the best way to do that is just escape them using this escape character. Okay, so now I can say he said I've got to learn Python. Okay, now because now in this string you can see that this double quote occurs 4 times, 1 2 3 and 4. Okay, but the behavior of these two double quotes is different. The usual meaning of a double quote is to be the beginning of the string or the end of a string. So this is the beginning of the string, this behaves as a beginning of the string, and this behaves as a closing double quote or end of the string. But these two behave simply as plain double quotes without any special meaning. So they had a special meaning, but this escape has nullified that meaning. Okay, so now if I print this dialog, we comment this out. So you see that both these double quotes are present. Okay, so that is what escaping either a single quote or double quote does to them. So now let us look at a couple of more escape sequences. One is \n. So this is used for a new line, to print a new line. \n is used to indicate a new line is present, or simply I can say to print a new line. Okay, so assume that I have a string which consists of two sentences. I'll say two cents. So I have to learn Python. This is my first sentence. Now I want the next sentence to be the next line. So here I'll say \n. So this indicates that at this point I have to break the line, and whatever text is going to follow, I have to print it in the next line. I am taking a course. Okay, so let us see what happens when I print this. So you see that this has been printed in two lines, and the line has been broken at this point. Okay, that is because of this \n. So if consider simply the character n. Okay, the character n simply means the letter or the alphabet n. But when I add this \/ here, this gets a special meaning. What is the special meaning? The special meaning is that this indicates the point at which a line break has to be placed. Okay, so now suppose if I placed it at some other point, if I place it here, and let us see what happens. So you see that just after learn, the line has been broken, and starting from Python, the text is in a new line. Fine. So that is the use of the /n special character sequence, or escape character sequence I should say. So now we are going to look at another idea in Python, which is called as raw strings. Okay, so what are raw strings? So till now you have seen that within strings, few character sequences have special meanings. Okay, for example, this /n, \n indicates that it is a new line character. It indicates that at that point in the code, the line has to be broken. Okay, so what raw strings do is, within raw strings, all kinds of special meanings are ignored, and that string is treated simply as a piece of text. Okay, so whichever characters occur in it, they're treated purely as those characters themselves. None of the characters within a raw string has any special meaning. Okay, so how do you create a raw string? You simply place this r before that string. Okay, so let me show you. Let us go back and look at our previous example of two sentences. So if I copy paste this here, and if I print this, so you see that this is because of the presence of this /n. I don't see the actual character /n within my text, but this /n is interpreted as a new line character. Okay, whereas if I create a raw string, raw str, and I'll take the same string, but what I'll do is I'll just place an r before this right here. So I'll say r, and within the double quotes I'll put the entire piece of text. Now this becomes a raw string. So let me try to print this raw string. So you see that in this raw string, this /n has not been given any special meaning. This /n is treated just as a character / and the character n. Okay, similarly all other characters also. So that is why we have got this same piece of text here. Okay, so that is the benefit of a raw string. So when you don't want any characters in your text to have special meanings, so instead of repeatedly escaping the special meaning to get the literal meaning, you don't need to use escape sequences. You can simply make it a raw string by including this character R before the string. All right. Next, let us look at multi-line strings. So till now you have looked at two ways to create strings. One was using single quotes and one was using double quotes. Okay. And if you wanted the string to span multiple lines, you were using the slash n character. Okay. But there is a better way to actually write multi-line strings, and the way to do that is to use triple quotes. Okay, so these triple quotes can be either single quotes or double quotes. So let me show you. So let us take this example of the same two sentence string. So I want to create this string. So how I'll write this is two cents, let me call this as multi-line. Okay, so I'll use triple quotes. I'll use triple single quotes in this example. So 1 2 3, it's a triple quote, triple opening quote, and another triple quote for closing. Okay, and in this I'll say I have to learn Python, and wherever I want to insert a new line, I'll just enter like how I would do in a word processor, and I'll say, so I am taking a course. Okay, now let us see how this string looks like if I try to print it. So if I try to print this string, so you see that whatever space I've included here, that also has been printed as it is, and a new line which I placed here, that also has been printed as it is. Okay, so if I remove all this white space, and now if I try to print it, so this is the same two sentences, so there was no so in that. The same two sentences which I wanted to appear in two different lines. Earlier I used a backslash n for that, but here I am using a multi-line string, which for which the opening quote is a triple single quote or double quote, and the closing is also a triple quote. Fine. The same thing I can do using triple double quote. So I'll just copy paste this entire thing. And I'll change the single quotes to double quotes. So you see that the same behavior is displayed even in the case of using triple double quotes for starting and triple double quotes for ending. Okay, so there is one interesting use case of these multi-line strings. These are used as doc strings. Okay, what are these doc strings? Doc strings are used in Python for documenting code. Okay, so imagine you have a function sum. Okay, just like in our assignments, we have already explained how to actually read and understand our assignments. So there we were using the same doc strings, but here I'll give you another example. So we have a sum function, def sum a b, and just after the function what you'll do is you'll write a multi-line string. Okay, and inside this you will explain something about the function. This is a function that adds two numbers, all right, and then maybe I'll specify the types of the inputs. A is an int and B is an int, and here I'll specify outputs, sum underscore, which is also an int, and sum of A and B. So in this way I have described the behavior of the function here. Just after the name of the function, this is called as a docstring, okay, and there are certain Python tools which will automatically extract all of these docstrings to create the documentation of Python, okay. So that is the benefit of using these docstrings. This is a special case of the use of these multi-line strings, okay. Here I can simply say sum is A plus B and return sum, okay. So that is one interesting use case of docstrings. So these docstrings you will see if you're looking at someone else's code, open source code on GitHub, or even if you're looking at Python's own documentation, at many places you may find the usage of these multi-line strings just after the name of a function or class, etc. So these basically uh, are describing the behavior and the features or the actual working of the program. This is called as documentation, and these strings are called as doc strings. Next, let us look at how do we index and slice strings, okay. This is same as how we do for lists. So let us look at this using some examples. So suppose you have the string 1 equals my string 1 is hello Hari, okay. This is my string. Now, so this string can be looked at as a list of characters. This can be thought of as a list of characters, okay. So for example, you can use the len method on this string to find the length of the string. So if I say length of this str underscore 1, so you see that I get 9 as the length because this is 9 characters. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Fine. So in a list, indexing starts from 0, right? 0 1 2 till 8. Similar thing happens in strings. So if I say str1 and within square brackets if I say 0, okay, and if I try to print what is this, so in a list, if it is a list of characters, what would you expect? You would expect that this should give me the first character of the string. So if I print this, you see that it has given me the first character of the string, which is h. Similarly, if I print str1, if I print if I just put some number 6, this is giving me a. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, okay, it's giving me the 7th character. Fine. And similarly, negative indices also work in the same way. If I have to -2, this should give me the second character from the end, which is r. So you see that I get r here. So all the rules which were applicable for indexing in lists, the same rules apply here also. Next, let us look at slicing, okay. So what was slicing used for in lists? It was used to get a sublist of a list, okay, and here slicing is used to get a substring of a string. Fine. So if I say print str1 I'll take this slice from 2 to 5, a substring. So I'll get LLO. Okay, this is the substring. Similarly, if I try to use some negative index, str1, this will start from this L and go till the end, but it won't include the character I. Okay, because we stop one step before whatever is specified. So you see that I have not included this character I. And similarly, if I omit the beginning index, if I simply say -1, so this will start by default at the beginning of the string and go till the end, but leave the last one. So this is the string that you get. Similarly, if I omit both, for example, then I'll get the entire string because it goes from the beginning to the end. Fine. So in this way, rules of indexing and slicing are exactly as identical as they were for lists. Fine. Next one is the in and not in operators. Okay, these are also similar in their usage to how they were working in lists. So in a list, for example, if we had L equals 1 4 9 7, okay, so if I say 4 in L, so this evaluates to true because this element is actually present, whereas if I say 13 in L, this will evaluate to false. Okay, I have to put a comma here, there's a mistake. Okay, so you see this, true and false. So in a similar fashion, for a string, okay, let us consider the previous string, str1. If I say r in str1, so because r is present in the string, this should evaluate to true. Okay, this r is a mistake because right now Python interprets this r as the name of an identifier or name of a variable. Okay, whereas I want this to be interpreted as a string, so I must actually say this. Now you see that this is true. Okay, whereas x is not present in the string, so if I say x not in str1, so this will also be true. Fine, but you can also use it for a substring of that string. So if I say print Hari in str1, so we saw here that Hari is present in this string. Okay, so this should evaluate to true. Fine, but what if we try to do this, print Hari, which is small h in str1, this will be false because this Hari is different from this Hari. Okay, all the strings are case sensitive in Python. This should evaluate to false. So this, you see that it has evaluated to false. So in this way, in and not in operators also work in a similar fashion as they work in lists. Okay, so now let us move on to the next concept and look at some commonly used methods on strings. Okay, these methods are the upper method, lower method, is upper and is lower methods. Okay, so these methods do not change the string itself and instead return a new value. Okay, so if you want to update your string variable, you have to actually assign this new value again back to that variable. So first let us look at some examples of upper and lower. So these upper and lower are very simple functions which convert all the characters in a string either to uppercase or lowercase. Fine. Let us look at our again previous string str1. If I say dot upper, if I try to print this, so you see that it has become completely uppercase or capital letters. Fine. Similarly, in that we originally had only H of hello and H of Hari as capital, but now all the letters are capital. But the actual string str1 has not changed. So if I print str1 after this, you will see that this string itself has not changed, because these methods do not change the string. And now if I print str1 dot lower, all the characters will become lowercase. Here you see that both h's have become lowercase. Fine. So if I want to actually change my string, I must say I must assign whatever value is returned by these methods back to the variable. So str1 dot upper. If I do this, now if I print str1, let me comment out these lines of code. So you see that this str1 has now changed to all caps. Fine. Next, let us look at two more functions, is upper and is lower. Okay, so these functions are to test whether a string is in uppercase or lowercase. Okay, so this is upper and is lower, they will return true if there is at least one alphabet in a string. So the condition is that at least one letter should be present in the string, and then it checks if all the letters that are present are uppercase, then is upper will return true, otherwise it will return false. And the opposite is true for is lower. Let us see an example. If I say str1, so let us check for str1. Okay, str1 dot is upper. If I try to print this, so in this we have a mix of upper and lower case, so this should naturally evaluate, we expect it to evaluate to false. Okay, but this is giving true. Yeah, because here remember that we changed str1 to be all caps, so is upper is returning true, whereas if I print is lower, this will return false. Okay, and if my string doesn't have any alphabets, this will also return to false. Is that clear? Okay. Next, let us look at these two methods, starts with and ends with. Okay, so what these methods check is whether the argument passed to these methods starts with and ends with, the actual string that these methods are being called on, whether that starts with or ends with respectively with that argument passed to them. Okay, this may sound complicated, but it is a very simple idea. So assume our str1. Okay, what was our str1? Hello Hari, right? So now if I say print str1 dot starts with, and to this I'll say starts with HEL. Okay, because this is at the beginning of the string, right? HEL, so this should return true. So you see that this has returned true, and the same is the case with ends with. Ends with, if I say Hari, this will also return true because my actual string ends with this substring Hari. And but instead if I put some intermediate substring ends with Loha, okay, here you can see that Loha is a substring, this will be false. Fine, because it does not actually end with this. So these are actually useful when you have to compare two strings, but you don't want to use the equality operator. Okay, assume that you want to check the state of a vehicle, state of a registered vehicle. So you know that based on license plate, so you know that different states, they have different first two alphabets in their license plate. For example, Uttar Pradesh has UP and Andhra Pradesh has AP, etc. So you want to check whether the license plate number actually begins with UP. So for that you can use this starts with method. Similarly, there may be many other use cases where this can actually be used. Now moving on. So let us look at join and split methods in Python. So join is called on a string, gets passed a list of strings and returns a string. Okay, so this may not be very clear to you. Let me explain. So what this join does is, so assume that my string is simply this comma. Okay, this is my string. If I said so join is called on a string, so I'll call join on this string and it gets passed a list of strings. Here I'll pass the list of strings, hello, or I'll pass the list of names, Hari, Madhav, Ram and Shyam. Okay, if I do this, and what is he saying? It returns a string. So let me try to print the string that it returns. So what is happening? This is the string that it returns. So what it has done is, whatever were the items inside this list, it has joined all those items and created a single string. And how has it joined them? It used this string to join them. Basically it placed commas between each of those items. Okay, similarly if I put some asterisk here, asterisk comma asterisk, so it will join all these items using these three characters. You see that it is joining using this. Okay, so this is what the join method does. You can pass any number of characters here and you have to pass a list of strings, and what this join method does is, it will create a single string in which all the items of that list are present, and the connectors between each of those items, those become this string on which the join method is called. Fine. Next, let us look at the split method in Python. So what split method does is, split is called on a string, gets passed a string and returns a list of strings. So you can think of it as an opposite of join method. So let us go back to this earlier example. So this is my string. Let me call it name string. Okay, I have a string of names. I want to split it into a list of names. Right now all the names are present within a single string, but those names are separated by commas. Okay, I want to split it into a list of names. So names list is equal to, I can use the split method, name string dot split, and I have to pass the character on which I want to split. Basically I want to split wherever there is a comma. Okay, so I'll pass comma here, and let me try to print what I get as the names list. So you see that now I've gotten these names without commas in a list. Fine. And assume that instead of commas here we had white space. a single white space. So suppose these were Hari. Instead of a comma, there is a single white space. So what I can do here is I can just pass a single white space. Now I should get the same result. So again, you see, I've got a list of all the names split at the white space in the original string of names. Fine. So that is how join and split methods work. And the final thing that we are going to look at today is removing white space with strip, rstrip and lstrip methods. Okay. So many times when you're dealing with text documents, there may be lots of white space in those documents which you want to skip. Okay. So for that, these methods are helpful. Let us look at a couple of examples. So imagine you have this name string. Okay, and there is lots of white space. Fine, this is my name string. Now let us look at what happens if I call the strip method on top of this and print the output of this. So you can see what has happened is whatever white space was there at the beginning of the string and at the end of the string, that has been removed, but whatever white space was in the middle, that has not been disturbed. If there was whatever amount of white space has been in the middle of these characters, that has been preserved, but before the first character begins, whatever is the white space, and after the last character ends, whatever is the white space, these two have been removed. So that is what the strip method does. It removes white space at the beginning and end of a string. Similarly, if I try to look at rstrip, so what this will do is this will remove white space at the end of the string. Here you see that there is no white space at the end of the string after the string. Rstrip means right side strip. Strip the white space at the right side, which is basically the end of the string. Similarly, lstrip will remove the white space at the beginning of the string. So here you see at the beginning of the string white space has been removed, but at the end there is all this white space. Fine. So these are these three functions: strip, rstrip and lstrip. So when dealing with text data, these come in handy many times when you want to remove some white space. Okay. So that covers our discussion of strings. So in this chapter we have looked at how to create strings, how to do concatenation and replication of strings, indexing and slicing of strings, escape characters, multi-line strings, and some methods on strings. Okay, so this covers all the basic tools and techniques that you need whenever you're dealing with text data or strings. Okay, that is all for this lecture. Thank you.